LSU inks a groundbreaking jersey patch sponsorship deal. You will hear from the president of Woodside Energy next. It's Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making this your first listen. We're free, available wherever you get great podcasts. Of course, on YouTube as well, so please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. Thank you for helping make the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. Thank you for watching every single day on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. Today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. We put the same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work that defines you. Stay tuned for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. So LSU has now formally announced its jersey patch sponsorship deal with Woodside Energy. If you go back with us several months during the fall, it's something that we told you was happening on LouisianaSports.net here on Locked on LSU as well. You might remember vaguely that during the fall, both the costumed Mike the Tiger mascot, when he wore his jersey, it had the Woodside Energy patch on it. Also, LSU's practice jerseys in football had the Woodside Energy patch as well, something that we shared with you. Now, with the NCAA officially allowing the jersey patches for intercollegiate athletic teams, LSU and Woodside Energy are able to formally announce their partnership, which they did on Monday. A whole slew of different graphics were announced, videos accompanying the announcement, etc. Here's what we're going to do in this episode. In just a minute, you're going to hear from Sarah Bairstow. Sarah Bairstow is the president of Louisiana LNG. If you're not familiar, LNG is liquefied natural gas. Okay. So Louisiana LNG for Woodside Energy. When this announcement was coming down about a week ago, I had the opportunity to interview Sarah about this partnership with Woodside Energy and LSU. And the thing, before you hear anything from Sarah, the thing you need to know is this. Most people, I understand, when you hear about a sponsored jersey patch, your immediate reaction is going to be to recoil. They're ruining the uniform. Nothing is sacred anymore. Anything for a buck, all that stuff. That is the reaction. I know many of you have that reaction. I'm going to be very frank with you with this. We're not going to tiptoe around anything. I'm going to be right in your face. Not that you'd expect anything different from me. And they know that. The Woodside Energy folks know that. They know that that is going to be the reaction of a portion of the fan base. So Sarah Bairstow, who runs the Louisiana division of a massive, multi-billion-dollar organization, an international energy company, flew to Baton Rouge just to do this interview with me in person, and then flew back to Houston. I'm telling you, they understand wholly how significant this decision is, and in so doing, want to be a great partner. So many times throughout this whole process, everyone I spoke with at Woodside Energy repeatedly said, we don't just want this to be a logo slap. They don't just want and you're going to hear that from Sarah here in just a quick second. And I'm going to let you, so I had a chance to sit down with Sarah Bairstow. We did about a 25-minute interview, and we covered a lot of ground. Now, if you want to hear that full interview, it's on all of the 104.5 ESPN channels. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, everywhere. Go to 104.5 ESPN, you'll see it. And I'm going to let you hear some of the clips, some of the highlights, and I'm going to break down a smidge. But I'm going to give you my opinion first. This is absolutely essential. And if you want your school and your teams to win, then you have to be able to find ways to generate revenue. If you can't understand that component, then we're having no conversation. Okay? If you want to spit in the face of revenue opportunities because it flies in the face of everything that you hold sacred, then you have to be okay with your football program being Kent State or Central Michigan or name it, any school that never wins anything of significance. In this era, especially, it's always been this way. And it used to be, well, you had to build facilities and pay coaches and have recruiting budget and evolve. Now, especially, you still have to build facilities and pay coaches and recruiting budget and staff, but you also have to pay the players now. And you're sharing revenue with your players, which means if you want to be good in every sport, you better find new ways to generate revenue. And if you're not okay with that, then one of two things needs to happen. Either you need to stop following intercollegiate athletics, which you'll never do because it's interwoven in all of our fabric, or you need to be accustomed with your team not being any good. But if you want to win, you have got to find new revenue streams. I have hit you over the head with this over and over and over again. It's when revenue share came into place. I'm not even talking about NIL. I'm talking about revenue share. When revenue share came into place, and if you know anything about business or economics, every school that was going to max out their revenue share basically took on a $20 million line item in their budget every year that's only going to escalate. So the only way you can afford that is either to cut expenses or find new revenue. Either find a way to slash $20 million out of your budget, which isn't going to happen because rarely do any athletic departments actually make money because whatever comes in, they spend. Or you have to find a way to generate new revenue. Well, how do you do that? This is an awesome way to do that. You put a jersey patch on. Now, the terms of this deal were not disclosed, and I've not looked at the contract. What I am confident in telling you is that it's a multi-year deal, and we're talking about in the 8 figures, okay? So this is a massive, massive, massive commitment by Woodside Energy here to LSU. And further, what I will say is, if you are an LSU fan and you want your team to win, you should not look at this in any way as being negative toward Woodside Energy. You should be absolutely giddy, thankful, praising them for their willingness to associate with the LSU brand in such a way that is so lucrative, that LSU is so necessary, but also in a manner in which they did it, which you're going to hear in just a minute from Sarah Bairstow, because I know this about Louisiana, and I know a lot of you disagree with me right now, and I'm being so in your face because I need you to understand why this is significant. It's significant because you have to find new revenue streams to win, but also understand, just like when we talked about the Nike deal, okay? If you're an everydayer, you heard me talk about this. Nike rolled out their NIL platform. What athletic department did they start with when they could have started with anybody? Who did they start with? LSU. Why? Gigantic brand. Who's the first known major university to announce a jersey patch sponsorship deal? LSU. Why? Massive brand. You know it, I know it. This isn't LSU homerism. Those are real world. That's money. That's Nike and Woodside Energy putting their money behind the LSU brand. Like, that isn't hard to understand, okay? LSU is a massive brand, and that is a huge benefit. But because LSU is such a massive brand, and because these gigantic businesses wanted to be a part of LSU's brand, they were great caretakers of that brand, which you're going to hear next when we come back. Portions of my interview with Sarah Bairstow, which I think you are which will, if even the greatest skeptic, when you hear this, it is going to put, even if you don't love it, I'm not telling you to do backflips and be great with it. What I'm telling you is you're going to hear this, and it's going to give you a different frame of reference, a different perspective on how and why these deals are done and how you should feel about Woodside Energy, because it's not only about LSU, it's about the entire state of Louisiana, and you're going to hear that next. Locked on LSU. It's your team every day. This is Mazda's moving the game forward for those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. And you know what? Not even going to talk about a game. I'm going to talk about our friends over at Woodside Energy for their amazing commitment to LSU, to the state of Louisiana, a $17.5 billion investment in the Louisiana LNG plant in Southwest Louisiana. That's the kind of thing that brings industry, commerce, and commitment to our state that lets our communities thrive. And they're a great partner, not only of LSU, but the entire state of Louisiana. And yes, it helps the Tigers win. Baseball Tigers got to win against Kent. How about Jake Brown with 2 home runs on Monday? Well, these moments remind us of what it takes to raise the bar. The extra work off the court, dialing in every detail, giving it the extra fire, the grit, never quit. Mazda puts the same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. And we're brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Have you ever thought, I'd love to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? Of course you have. Well, FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into a reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock in. And now, not only can you pick cash, or can your pick cash, but it could also send you to the finals. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. So I mentioned I had a chance to visit with Sarah Bairstow, who is the president of Louisiana LNG for Woodside Energy. Again, a gigantic international company who I could tell you about, but let me start by letting Sarah Bairstow tell you who Woodside Energy is.
So Woodside Energy, we're an international energy company. We've been working here in Louisiana for about 20 years now, so a big player out in the Gulf of America, offshore fields and assets there. But we equally work around the world. So we've got LNG, oil, gas, new energy projects, etc. So we've been working with and looking at Louisiana for a long time, big fans, but we really made a big splash last year. We actually took an FID, or a decision to invest $17.5 billion in Louisiana for a new liquefied natural gas project. So really flagship style of project, big, bold decision, but one we've got so much conviction in. It's bringing 15,000 jobs, direct jobs to Louisiana, 40,000 indirect jobs, really great economic outcomes. But at the end of the day, it all trickles down to people and communities, and that's exactly why we started talking to LSU.
So, a couple of things. Some of the pushback I've heard is this Australian company. Please understand, yes, Woodside Energy is based in Australia, but you just heard Sarah say it. Woodside Energy has done business in Louisiana for 20 years already. You may not know the name, but they've done business in Louisiana for 20 years. And a year ago, they committed $17.5 billion of an investment into an LNG plant in Calcasieu Parish. $17.5 billion. It was the largest individual investment from a foreign-based company in the history of the state of Louisiana. So I asked Sarah, okay, well, we're going to get to the Jersey stuff and the LSU stuff in a second, but why the investment in Louisiana?
LNG, I geek out on this all the time, so bear with me, but US LNG represents 30% of global LNG these days. It's huge in just 10 years. Do you know how much Louisiana represents? 63% of that. It's a game changer from an economic growth perspective, an employment perspective, just the broader social fabric and what we can do there. But I think much of that, Governor Landry's done a really great job in really creating a strong investment climate. So you know that your capital is going to be not only welcomed, but well taken care of. And you've got really great people who are they're really skilled. So you've got great employment prospects matching with great economic opportunity. But most importantly, you've got a lot of great communities that really see the ability to move dollars down and impact, whether it's schools, biodiversity projects, or otherwise. So it's an effort of the masses and a full breadth of the stakeholder base to make these things work.
Again, this is an all-inclusive part of their investment, not only into the state of Louisiana. So, Sarah Bairstow, Woodside Energy, they're in Louisiana. They've been there 20 years. They're committing $17.5 billion, a massive, game-changing investment for their company into the state, the facility in the state. So they know they're going to be here. And this isn't like this is like a 50-year type commitment when you build that facility. So you want to ingrain yourself deeper into the community. How do you do that? Well, LSU is the biggest brand in the state. I'm not overreaching there or speaking out of turn. But what you're going to hear next from Sarah is why they chose to do a deal with all 21 varsity sports. They could have just done football. That was an option. They could have done just a logo on the field. They could have done something like there's a lot of options they could have done. But their decision was to put the Woodside Energy patch on all 21 NCAA sanctioned sports at LSU. Why?
You really want to feel a part of the community and the culture and orient the outcomes not just about the economics, but about the people. So we have partnerships in Australia, in Mexico, etc., and we're looking for the right partner here in Louisiana. We've been talking about this with LSU for some time, and we had an opportunity to do, one sport. Do we want to put our logo on the field, football? For us, when we looked at it, we really wanted to go bigger and broader. We wanted to have as much outreach as possible and find a program that allowed us to work and support student athletes. I mean, LSU is pretty impressive if you look at the graduation ratios for student athletes. I think it's over 90%. So that's great, supporting them through that journey. But then equally for LSU, it's such a part of Louisianan cultural sort of fabric, right? And how do we work with someone like LSU or a program like LSU in activating community programs and working with coaches and student athletes to do more than just athletics and more than just sort of the athletic events. So for us, it was a holistic package. And the more we spoke to LSU, the more we realized, I don't need to sell anybody on how phenomenal LSU is. We like doing big. LSU is big and there's no better. So that was clear to us. But it was about how do you get the right sort of sponsorship, partnership package and being able to be broad across all sports, as you say, and cascade it into actual community-oriented outcomes as well was pretty special.
Would you mind digging a little deep? So I hope part of what you're getting now in these excerpts from this conversation with Sarah are how big in scope that Woodside Energy is, how deeply they've been committed to this state for 2 decades, and their commitment for decades ahead as well, and wanting to be interwoven with LSU and Louisiana culturally. But what you're going to hear next is probably the most impressive part of this entire conversation. It's 2 things that Sarah talked about that could have derailed this. And we're talking about, again, a massive financial investment by Woodside Energy into LSU. And 2 things could have derailed this entire thing. And you're going to hear from Sarah why it didn't when we wrap up next. Locked on LSU, your team every day. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. Since we've been talking, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. It's less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is the job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get $75 sponsored job credits just to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. And go to Indeed.com/podcast right now. Support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on Locked on LSU. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. So we've covered a lot of ground with our conversation with Sarah Bairstow. And I mentioned there's two things that could have derailed this jersey patch sponsorship deal entirely. But because of Woodside Energy's commitment to LSU, didn't. One is the delay. So Sarah explained in this conversation that more than a year ago, Woodside Energy and LSU entered into these conversations and about some type of partnership, however that may look. And you heard Sarah say that their commitment ultimately was to do broader and to do all sports. Well, the problem is while Woodside Energy had committed to doing that with LSU, the NCAA had not yet allowed for jersey patch sponsorships. So with that delay, which again lasted more than a year from LSU's first contact and conversations and negotiations with Woodside Energy, more than a year, it would have been very easy for Woodside Energy to say, we're going to move on and do something else. But they didn't. So I asked Sarah, did you ever consider reconsidering or pivoting from this deal with LSU?
No, absolutely not. I mean, the folk at LSU are fantastic. I mean, they are so professional and so invested in the right partnerships. We had a conversation with them around, look, we get there's a delay. It's outside of your control. What can we keep doing together in the meantime? So, you started to see some of the Woodside branding on the football field.
Mm-hmm.
You saw it on some of the training jerseys, practice jerseys, etc. But no, there was never a shadow of a doubt around what we wanted to do.
It would have been very easy whenever you're willing to write a gigantic check and someone who you're writing the check to can't fulfill their end of the obligation. Again, no fault of LSU's. It was the NCAA was the holdup. But you had a deal on the table, and it would have been very easy for Woodside Energy to say, we'll pivot and we'll do something different. Right there, the president of Louisiana LNG of this company said, we never consider pivoting. It was what can we do in the meantime was the approach. That's their commitment. But maybe the biggest is how they brand visually. So Woodside Energy's colors are red and white. They are known internationally in that sector by their logo, which is red and white, in the same way that LSU is purple and gold, or any other company. The McDonald's, we know they're red and gold with the golden arches. Just think of any brand. Like, you can hear a slogan, you can hear a jingle, you know colors, you can see a logo. Like, that is the importance of branding. It's true in every business. Branding is so important. How people recognize your business, the logo, the jingle, the slogan, all of the colors, all of it, so important. And Woodside Energy, if you've looked at any of the photos of these jersey patches, all of the jersey patches are purple, gold, and white. None of them have an ounce, a drop of red, which in some respects to me is unfathomable as a marketer. But on the other hand, it is so massively impressive that they were willing to do this. So I asked Sarah Bairstow about why they agreed to change their colors on these patches.
So we haven't done that before. And you've got to think too.
I believe you.
Woodside is equally, we're a big company and we're around the world. And so branding is important. It's how people recognize our company. And everybody knows it as red and white. But that said, when you're entering into a partnership, you want to do the partnership the right way, right? Like we want to feel a part of LSU, and we want LSU and what we're doing for them to feel a part of Woodside. And so it was a pretty easy decision to say, if we have the privilege of being the first company to be able to put our logo on the LSU jersey, then we want to do it the right way. And we want to do it in a way that really demonstrates we're part of this culture, we believe in this program, and we're a part of the program. And so doing it in purple and white, for us, that was an easy decision. But we also hope it sets a bit of a precedent, right? Like you could just as a company say, we want to put a brand on something and we don't care what it means and we don't care how people receive it. We want it to be received as a cohesive sort of partnership. And we also hope people follow suit. Like, why not keep the purple and gold?
How massively impressive. Privilege precedent. She said it's a privilege to be able to put this is a billion-dollar organization. And she's saying it is a privilege for us to put our logo on that jersey. And we hope we set a precedent. I mean, I can't help but my mind immediately go to like the Walmart. I'm not taking a shot at Walmart, but the Walmart logo is on the field at Reynolds Razorback Stadium at Arkansas. They didn't change it to red and white to match Arkansas's colors. It's the Walmart yellow. I hope she's right. I hope this does set a precedent. And I hope this episode helped you understand why this is so massively important for LSU's continued success and why Woodside Energy is a great partner, because they've gone about doing this in such an incredibly responsible and thoughtful way. I give them a giant round of applause for how they've gone about doing this. We got to bounce. Until next time, it is Locked on LSU, your team every day.